What was your, sir, this is a Wendy's, moment? I worked at Walmart for a long time in the hardware department. Had a customer call asking if we sold toilets. I said, like, toilet seats? He said, no, like actual toilets. So I said, sorry, we just sell the seats and replacement parts. No porcelain. He got all huffy and said, Jesus, what is this place? Walmart? I paused for a moment and said, yes sir, it is. Silence for a long moment. Then he said in a little voice, this isn't Home Depot? No sir, you called Walmart. Oh shit, I am so sorry, and he hung up. I laughed my ass off. Went to drive through at a Wendy's, and the person taking the order said welcome to Walmart. I was really confused and I heard laughing. And he said I'm so sorry, he works there too and was on autopilot. Missed opportunity for the reverse card. Imagine saying, sir, this is a Wendy's as the customer. A few months ago I drove up to the Wendy's drive-thru and heard through the speaker, welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order? There was laughing in the background. I did reply in a serious tone, sir, this is a Wendy's, QQ. Uproarious laughter by all. I think they were stoned. 10/10. Always going to that Wendy's. I was in Lowe's one morning right after they opened. There was a woman at the service desk having a complete meltdown, yelling and screaming because Lowe's didn't have a licensed contractor there at the store for her to hire. She apparently woke up that morning and decided she needed a deck, like that same day, and thought she could just go to Lowe's and have someone immediately start building a deck. It was dead, so I stood with the cashier listening to the show. They ended up having to call the police to get her to leave. Sometimes I wonder what it feels like to live every day with that much innate entitlement. The power unearned confidence must be a little intoxicating. No? Had an uncle on my spouse's side do this with groceries. Went off the rails that they expected him to pay. He was not entitled. He was having a mental breakdown due to a medication he had just started taking. People who walk off in a huff after arguing something stupid like the contractor bit above, I would definitely call entitled. This lady staying until they had to call the cops? Something is wrong there. Work in radio. Got a call on the contest line one time. Yeah, I need a hotel room, said the caller. Okay, how would you like me to help you? Well, book me one. You're aware you called a radio station's contest line, right? Yeah. Don't you book hotel rooms for rock stars when they do a show in town? Book me one. OMG. That's why you can never get through on the contest line. I'm a high school teacher in Australia. I had a parent rail me out that I wasn't teaching their daughter how to do her taxes. I'm a history teacher. I had a parent rail me means something different where I come from. Lol. Very different type of feedback. Man, Australia has everything. Nationalized healthcare, kangaroos, Pornhub style parent teacher conferences. Come on USA, step it up. I work as a facilities manager for a company with a few hundred locations around the country. Back at the end of 2020 I was having trouble getting in touch with a vendor we had a contract with to do some work around one of our offices. Nothing big. I figured he just ghosted us. So I began looking for another vendor who could take over the work. After 2 months of radio silence, vendor 1 calls me out of the blue and was clearly very drunk and crying at 1 PM on a weekday. Turns out he had gotten COVID, was hospitalized, got blood clots in both legs, and had to have them both amputated. He called me while I was at work and told me his whole life story. I ended up staying on the phone with him for about 30-45 minutes and I helped him track down a grief counselor. Hopefully he went. I still wonder how he's doing sometimes. I love when customers trauma dump on me. Okay, so that will be $2.15. Yeah, my dog just died and my son was arrested. My mom's house burned down last week too. Oh, would you like a straw? I just chalk it up to people being lonely. It's especially frequent with older customers. Maybe they just don't have someone to talk to. Yay. I had to convince an old guy that used to come into the dealership and pay for a bunch of shit to have someone to talk to, that I'll just go to lunch with him once a week or so to hang out. He had no one left and was burning cash looking for some human interaction. I let him tell his stories and asked questions, and he felt good again. A man come into my tattoo shop once and asked for a massage with a happy ending. Was like, oh, this is a tattoo studio, not a massage parlor. And he just stood there like, yeah, I know. As if tattooists are synonymous with sexual masseurs. So, it's like I said, I went to this tattoo shop. All I wanted was a tattoo of a guy getting a happy ending. And they wouldn't do it. Tattooists today are too soft. 10 years ago, you could go into a shop and ask for a donkey show, and they'd ink that right on your gooch. I was working at McDonald's and this lady said, can I get the Wendy's 4 for $4? I said, ma'am, this is a McDonald's. And without a moment's hesitation she replied, indeed it is. Can I get a Big Mac? I work for a CPA office that is in an office park with a couple doctors' offices. One day a guy came in only speaking Spanish, so I grabbed my Spanish speaking colleague to translate. He talked to the guy in the lobby for a few minutes. Then the guy left and my co-worker came back and asked if that was a joke or we put someone up to that. Apparently the guy explained that his testicles were extremely swollen and painful. He was looking for one of the doctor's offices and just walked into the first building in the complex. Sir, we do taxes here, not testicles. Uber driver once had a girl I picked up from a karaoke bar that was obvious upset, distressed. Asked if she was okay. Yeah, I just did karaoke. Oh, that's pretty cool. I did a song for my dad that died a year ago. Oh, that's sweet of you. Nothing else was said until I got her home, which was only a couple blocks away. As I pulled in, this is what she said. I'm not going to give you a bad rating for this, but you could have been more emotionally available for me. I just said, I'm sorry, and had to stop myself from bursting into laughter. I felt bad for her of course, but that was just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard from a passenger, especially prefacing it with, I'm not gonna give you a bad rating for this but. Second story. Picked up a lady. She was distressed. I asked if I could do anything for her and she said, not unless you can take back the last 40 years of my life. It was a very silent, awkward ride. I'm not going to give you a bad rating for this, but I'm not going to give you a particularly good one either. Not exactly average, but not quite above or below either. Closing shift at a Starbucks. Was like 10 PM at night and this couple come inside and walk up to me at the front counter saying, the deli across the street is racist towards white people. I really had no response besides just standing there for a few seconds before saying, did you want to order something? That just reminded me of a tangential memory of my own, where I was the customer in question. I used to routinely stop at a Starbucks that was next door to a gas station. I'd park at one or the other, then run into both, the Starbucks for coffee, and the gas station for a pack of cigs. I did this nearly every morning for several months. One day, I got my wires crossed or something. I'm not sure, but I walked into the Starbucks, waited in line, and eventually made it to the register, where I said, pack of Camel Lights, please. The perplexed look on the cashier's face is still burned into my memory to this day. Then I realized where I was, did a literal facepalm, and said, sorry, large black coffee, please. And the cashier laughed her ass off the entire time it took her to pour my coffee. Not one specific moment, since it happened all the time when I worked at Ulta. I'm looking for this lipstick. Shows me Sephora brand lipstick. We don't sell that, but I can show you something similar. No, I want this specific lipstick. Don't you sell it? Well, where can I buy it? At Sephora. Mom. Overhead on my Target shift. Wow, I've never been in a Walmart like this. It has a Starbucks. I'm guessing it was drug related. I've told this story tons of times to my friends' family because it's one of my favorite Domino's stories. This happened somewhere around 2017 to 2018. One day I was really slow at work at Domino's. I was still a relatively new insider, only a few months into what would be about 4 years, and still in school, so I was hoping that it would stay slow, so I could go home, so I can cheat on my math homework, play some League of Legends, and get some sleep since my school started an hour earlier than other schools in the area. A woman, probably mid-40s, comes in to order a pizza. She's pretty chill, and we're just chatting while she's ordering, because there really isn't much to do otherwise since we already cleaned the store and oven and all that. After she gets her pizza all done up, I ask her if she'd like any drinks. She's like, oh, what do you guys have? I'm running down the drink options and she notices Coca-Cola and looks at me wide-eyed, like she just saw someone get hit by a car. Don't you know they put human embryos in Coke? I'm sorry. She then spends the next 7 minutes running down pretty much every major conspiracy, from human embryos in Coca-Cola to flat earth to the moon landing being faked, etc. If you think of a pre-COVID conspiracy, she hit it. And she tied it all up in a neat little bow of, it's all the Jews. I'm stun-locked. The only words that can come out of my mouth are, so no on the drink, Coke Zero please. I guess the zero means, 0 embryos. Had a guy come into my place of work yesterday, pissed off, because he issued his payment date, and had to pay extra to turn his phone back on. He said something along the lines of, it was due at midnight and y'all aren't open at midnight, so how was I supposed to pay? I calmly explained that we are open until 7 PM every day but Sunday, and he screamed, well, unlike you, I actually have a job. At my job. Whilst doing my job. You're right, sir. I don't work here. I just do this for fun. Got one. Nice lady walks into the cinema I work in, asks for a ticket, yada yada. We start chatting a bit while I ring her up, explain how the cinema works, etc. It was a slow day too, so I could actually do that. And that's when she asks me what hall to go to. I explained to her she has access to all of them. She can just pick wherever she goes first. Cue this. Okay, that's great. Where's the Barbie movie in? Go. What do you mean Barbie movie? Lady looks around, realizes things are very iffy. Oh no. Oh, I see it too now. Yeah, this isn't this kind of cinema. Let me reimburse you. Turns out she literally managed to miss every DVD rental case, the posters and interior deco of the Pan cinema she walked into. Edit. I'm surprised at the amount of you that didn't know Pan cinemas are a thing actually. I thought they were a common thing. Granted, a dying one, but that they still existed. I worked in a local cafe newsstand convenience store type spot. We also had a Ticketmaster outlet for a bit. Our small town had an annual concert that usually ran 2 or 3 nights. It was really popular with the local folks, so it brought in a lot of foot traffic with people buying tickets. My boss was honestly a small business mastermind. That was the extent of our involvement. We sold and printed gate passes. On night 1 of the event, I was closing the store as usual. At 10 PM, an irate woman called wanting to file a noise complaint about the concert. I was like, Mom, you must have the wrong number. This is local cafe. She insisted that she was filing an official noise complaint and demanded to speak to the owner right now. 10 PM on a Friday? Yeah, he's not here. He also isn't the police and doesn't deal with noise complaints. Also, it's only 10 PM and this concert has been widely advertised for months. She then went on a wild rant that we needed to do something about the noise since we sold tickets. She wouldn't let me off the call and was going berserk. I told her I was going to disconnect since we had nothing to do with the event or the noise. She called back multiple times and finally I just let the phone ring. Was still ringing when we locked up. Mom, are you okay? Narrator. As it turns out, she was not okay at all. Delivered 2 large pizzas to a guy's apartment at 10 AM on a Sunday. When I got there, he proceeded to say, my girlfriend just dumped me. I slowly backed away and said I had more deliveries to do. It was a Sunday morning. We were reading the paper and I said, oh my god, I think the Eagles could clinch the NFC East. And she said that we're done. I didn't realize it until several rewatches later, but I'm pretty sure Stacy dumped Kevin because of his gambling problem. I'm guessing he was going to bet on the Eagles game. I worked at Wendy's throughout high school and some lady ordered a burger meal at the drive-thru. Over an hour later she comes back to the front counter, slamming the burger on it, saying it was cold. I checked our receipts and told her she ordered over an hour ago and that burgers aren't meant to stay hot for that long. She said that was absolutely unacceptable and how dare we serve her a burger that gets cold. She then proceeds to ask me for my full name and details so she could sue me, at the same time freaking out when I didn't have a pen to give her to write down my info. Another customer walking by said, holy shit lady, relax, and she yells at him to mind his business. He says, well, I just feel bad for this poor employee you're yelling at. If you don't wanna read here, go somewhere else. Bless his soul. I was only 17 and was so shook. Damn, that's one unhinged crazy bee. Hate those people. The ones that know they're making a stink over something totally bogus. I still don't understand why they even do it. I want to say attention, but I don't know anymore. Mental illness. I worked in an ice cream truck. A tweaker came up to the back. The rear doors were open and tried to buy Wii from me while I was serving customers. I had to explain to him I was not selling Wii. Later on, he ambushed my truck when I was leaving the park, stood in front, hit the hood a couple times with a piece of metal, and then when I was driving off, threw said metal and shattered one of the side windows on the truck. Not sure why your comment triggered this. Backdoors, I guess. But I worked at a restaurant in a complex with several other restaurants in a harbor, Baltimore, and some guy in a white chef coat asked the kitchen manager if they could borrow 10 pounds, 4.54 kg, of crab meat for their restaurant. This was done a lot, but mostly with produce or low-end stuff between restaurants. He lent it and then the following week called to get them to give back the crab meat they borrowed, and no such person or "can we borrow" existed. Some dude just yoked the crab meat. When my mum was in college in the 60s, two men in overalls walked into the lecture room, said, "We've come to take the television," and wheeled it out on its trolley. Nobody batted an eyelid, and the college lost a very expensive piece of equipment. This story is gonna show my age for a few reasons, but when I was about 12 or 13, I saved up my allowance and neighborhood yard work money to finally afford the newest iPod, the ones that could play videos as well. I wanted to make sure they had it at the store before I got my parents to drive me there, so I opened the phone book, found the Apple Store, and called them. Guy at Apple Store. Hello? Me. Hi. Do you have the iPod video in stock? Guy. This is an Apple Store. Like, crunch crunch? I had called the gift shop at an apple orchard. Found the product I needed online. Drove to the store. Spent 20 minutes failing to find said product on the aisle it was supposed to be on. Showed the picture to multiple staff, none of whom recognized it. Finally went to the customer services desk, and after 10 minutes of waiting in line, got told the website I was looking at was one of their competitors. Edit. Aisle. Because it's large store, but not a peninsula. Thanks you, Wendy. I automate dumb buildings with temperature control systems. Something I get a lot is, all of this equipment was working before you touched it. Now none of it works. The best ones, and my favorite ones, are when we get that call on a unit we haven't even touched. Unit 1? You're calling about Unit 1? Yeah, it was working fine before your guys touched it and now it's not running. Okay, well, we started working on the other side of the building first, and we haven't begun tying into the units yet, so that unit is all on you. Oh. Literally working at a Wendy's. Guy threatens to jump over the counter and strangle me because I accidentally entered an extra kid's meal on his order. I made the mistake because while he was ordering, he was simultaneously talking on his phone and poorly wrangling like 4 or 5 small children, leading him to repeat himself several times. I didn't catch that one of them was a repeat. He doesn't know you can just void the transaction? Sure he could, but if he goes to jail for assault, he doesn't have to deal with all these kids anymore. I worked in a cell phone store that had a veteran support office behind us. One day an older gentleman was waiting in the queue. When it was his turn, I called him up and asked what I could help him with. He stepped up to the counter and told me that the veterans hospital was claiming his vision impairment was only 20% disability, and he felt it was much higher. I agreed, and I offered to walk him to the correct building, and told him I would be a witness for him. Lol. I used to have a job working front desk third shift concierge at a swanky apartment tower. Very exclusive. NFL players, NBA players, MLB players, high end all around. The top floor is a penthouse owned by the owner of a modeling firm. Paid like shit. One night 2 girls come in, want to purchase a few things from the residence dispensary, like a in-house 7/11. I just get a room number and it gets tacked onto the monthly rent. While one is getting a few things, the other decides to tell me her life story and is asking me for advice on all these life-changing things she is thinking about doing. When the other was done shopping, she came over to the counter and the two of them just chatted with me for a couple hours, asking for my advice on everything. And I mean everything. I felt like a therapist for them. After a while, they wanted me to come upstairs and party with them and the friend they were visiting. I assumed they were at least a little drunk, but they had been there for a while, and they weren't getting any more sober. And then the person who they were visiting, a lawyer who lived in the building, came down and was like, "Where the hell have you two been?" and ushered them upstairs. Next day at the start of my shift, he was waiting for me. He apologized profusely and gave me a $200 tip and asked me to not mention the two girls to anyone. Apparently they were a pair of escorts and were high as a effing kite on ecstasy. I had a car for sale, and an influencer called me up and said they would like to use my car for a podcast. They said, "You need to have your car at," and I cut them off and said, "I am sorry, did you just tell me that I need to deliver a car you are asking to borrow for no money?" They said yeah. I said, "Oh, okay, just send me a retainer of 1/4 the price of the car and you can borrow it. I don't know you." She said, "I don't have that much money." I said, "Well, I do. So who the hell in their right mind tells the person they're asking for a favor where to be and what to do?" She got really angry and explained to me who she was, then told me, "I can destroy your business in minutes with a negative comment." I couldn't stop laughing. I am an architect and normally work for corporations. She said, "The people do as I demand and I have 90,000 followers." I said, "Cool, have every one of your followers send you dollars so you can borrow my car," and then hung up. I got 4 emails from her loyal followers. 4 customers at my retail job explaining that COVID passports are the mark of the beast and check-in QR codes are a means of tracking us all while paying for the groceries electronically via their phone. And they're eager to let me know that the mask I'm wearing traps bacteria and causes cancer while in the process of purchasing cigarettes. Back when Sears was still a thing, they had a program where you earn points and it was linked to your email. So many people got really angry when you asked for an email. One lady told me off when I asked. Then she said she wanted to use her Sears card but didn't have it with her. I say, "No problem. We can look it up with your SSN." I'm trying to get to the right screen while she starts rambling off her social in front of a long line of people. I nearly screamed at her to stop, then instructed her to enter it in the pin pad. God forbid I ask for your email, but the minute you think it's convenient, you announce your social security number to everyone in the store. I drove into a McDonald's drive-thru and asked for a Whopper combo. I was half asleep. My mother admitted to accidentally driving through McDonald's asking for a 3-piece chicken meal with potato and gravy. And when they pointed out KFC is down the road, she still had to sit through the drive-thru queue and see the people at each window like a dumbass. I own a drywall company and our shop is in a giant storage unit complex for big RVs. Like $500 K $1 million RVs. So the bays are gigantic. A lot of contractors have their shops there. The front building is shared between myself and a power washing company. We both have signage up clearly stating drywall business, power washing business. One day my crew was at the shop loading up equipment, and some older guy came up and wanted to rent a storage unit. My guys gave him the info for the owners, which is on a big sign by the road that says RV storage units with all the info. He just ignored them, pulled out his checkbook and said, "Who do I make this check out to? I want to rent unit number 12. Again my guys pointed to our business sign clearly stating drywall business. He then got aggravated and asked when we were open, so he could get the unit. Finally my crew leader told him the boss would be back in a couple hours so he would leave them alone. Guy never came back. I used to run a free food bank for HIV positive clients in a healthcare organization. Most days of the week, clients could come and shop at the bank for their items. One day each week, however, we offered pre-packed bags. This was clearly communicated to clients to cut down on wait time, as the bank could get very busy and backed up while people chose their items. On those days, we had a strict you get what you get and you don't get upset policy, since the whole point of the pre-packed day was speed. One fateful pre-packed bag day, a client who came in was adamantly displeased with the juice offering in her bag. She returned to my window to insist on a juice trade. I politely refused and told her that she was welcome to come back another day to choose her items. She proceeded to scream all manner of creative profanities at me and throw the family-sized juice at my head. I'm aware of the strain that living in compromised positions, medical or otherwise, can place on people. I am also aware that throwing juice is not generally rational, effective, or respectful. It just results in spilled juice, and that's no fun for anyone. I used to work for Kmart. Someone came into the store and wanted to know where the pet department was located. We only had one aisle of pet items and it was mostly items for dogs, cats, food, litter, toys, etc. I took the customer to the aisle, and they said, "This is it? This is all you have for pet supplies? You don't have an actual department like other stores?" "Yes, sir. We just carry the basics. If you need a bigger selection, there is a Pet Supplies Plus, located at the other end of the plaza." The customer got upset and said, "But if I wanted to go to Pet Supplies Plus, I would have gone there, but I wanted to go to Kmart. So I'm guessing you don't have fish food or anything like that?" I showed him the same selection of fish food, and he got upset. He then started asking advice for fish tanks, and again, I directed him to the Pet Supplies Plus that was located just a couple storefronts down from Kmart. When he insisted on not going to that store, I gave him directions to 2 other pet stores in the area. Eventually he left, but not before saying, "This is why Kmart is going out of business." Sure buddy, the lack of a pet department is the sole reason Kmart is going out of business.